We all know winter is the worst part of the season for us bikers. We're trapped inside while our bikes sit out idle, collecting dust in our garage. Well, what if I told you there was a way to get a little bit more ride time out of each season and it wasn't that expensive to do? Well, that's exactly what we're gonna cover today, how to stay warm while riding in the colder parts of the year. So the first and the most inexpensive way to stay warm while riding is going to be your classic thermals. Now, I wear these under whatever I'm wearing, normally a hoodie, sweatpants, protective pants, something along those lines. However, these are super thin, so you can put them under basically anything. If you're just rocking jeans, you can throw them under jeans. Definitely get pants as well as a shirt. But these are about $10, so you can pick them up on Amazon next day. They're super cheap, affordable, and honestly the best way to stay warm if you're not looking to get super bulky.
Okay, so these thermals are definitely the cheapest thing you can do to stay warm while riding. They do a great job at retaining all that heat. The only downside to these, which isn't even a downside, just something you have to account for, is they do not block wind. So if you're like most squids out there that just wear sweatpants to ride, you don't have protective pants that break the wind, which I know they're expensive, so a lot of people end up just not wearing protective pants that I meet. Now the issue with that is if you're gonna put a pair of sweatpants over thermals, wind gets right through both of them because thermals are not windbreakers. All they do is kind of, keep that heat in there a little better, kind of like an insulation layer. So they definitely don't break that wind and you can feel it. So you really need some kind of wind protection, some kind of pants that break wind if you're not wearing protective pants. Hopefully, I know some protective pants are going to be made for summer riding. So as long as you have something to break the wind, these thermals are great paired with any pair of pants.
And the second thing to keep you warm while riding in those colder weather days is going to be a Carhartt jacket. Now, I know there's going to be some mixed opinions on this one because it isn't made for riding. It's not protective for if you were to get in a crash or something. However, I do personally know two people that took a spill wearing a similar Carhartt style jacket and they both walked away without a scratch. However, the jacket kind of did take a beating. Pretty sure I couldn't use it after that, but I mean, the same goes for armored jackets as well. So I think, if you're trying to stay warm, you're not doing anything crazy, not gonna be going super fast, I think this is a great option. And the nice thing is, yeah, it's 150, 200 bucks. That's about the same cost as a budget protective jacket. But the nice thing about this is because it's not a motorcycle jacket, it has many applications, right? You can work in this thing, you can use it as a snow jacket, you can just wear it because it's warm. There's so many different applications for this, it makes it universal, but most of you might even have one already, but it's just a really nice way to stay warm. It does a great job at blocking the wind and overall just keeping you nice and warm.
Now, like I said, I know a couple people in my comments are gonna be like, oh, a Carhartt isn't a full protective jacket. What are you doing? You need to wear a full protective jacket. Well, here's the thing. Most people don't like to wear big, bulky protective jackets, which I completely understand. And most jackets are made for summertime riding. And let's face it, those freaking armored hoodies, you crash on one of those, and if your hoodie just rubs the wrong way, boom, raw skin. It's doing nothing. So, you know what? If you're gonna wear cheap armor, it's not gonna do much. It might not even do anything. So why not take the chance and at least be warm? Now, this jacket does a really good job at breaking the wind when you're riding in the cold. I hardly feel any wind through it. I normally pair it with a hoodie, and then if it's really cold, the thermal as well. So it does a great job at keeping me warm overall. Now, as far as bulkiness, I'm sure most people watching this have worn a Carhartt jacket, but if you haven't, they're honestly not that bulky. I can move freely, much more freely than an armored jacket where you have the weird mesh. Again, that's probably going to be more protective if you were to get in a crash, but the upside to this jacket is you can move very freely. I don't feel my circulation getting cut off or anything crazy like that.
What is the first thing that gets cold when you're out riding on a chilly day? For me personally, it's always my fingers. My fingers get cold. It's hard to pull in that clutch. It's hard to hit the brakes. It's just not fun. That's where these heated gloves from Kemimoto come in, and these have completely changed the game for me. Now, as far as keeping your hands warm while riding, you basically got two options. You got heated gloves like these, or you can go ahead and get heated grip. Now, here was the issue with me for heated grips. You gotta install them on every single different bike you own, which us bikers, we all start off with one bike and slowly buy into more and more and more. Before you know it, you have too many bikes, and you don't want to pay $200 to $400 per bike to get heated grips on them. And that's what I really love about these gloves is I can take these, I can jump on anything with an engine in it. I can get a snowmobile, a dirt bike, my Grom, one of these, and I'm gonna be perfectly warm, and I don't have to pay $400 per motorcycle. These gloves come in at about $150, $60, so they're super affordable for what you get.
So the Kemimoto heated gloves, let's talk about these for a minute. There's a couple cool features. Now first off, you got 3 different heating modes. You got low, medium, and high, which you can change just with the press of the button. It's super nice because like right now it's like 45, 50 degrees. It's definitely bearable, and so I wouldn't want to have this on the high setting, just have my hands be super sweaty. So I can turn it all the way to the low setting and it's perfectly comfortable. My battery is going to last longer, and you know, it just makes for a more comfortable ride. So that brings me into the next topic, which is the battery life. Now the battery life on these things depend on, you know, the settings you're using, but you're gonna get roughly 3 to 8 hours, and honestly, even at the highest setting, 3 hours is plenty. Who's gonna ride in the cold, even if you got nice gear on to stay warm, like these gloves, the Carhartt jacket, the thermals? Who's gonna stay out for that long? So I think 3 hours is plenty of time. You know, you could do a road trip and you would be fine. Plenty of battery life, and not to mention that's on the high setting, so you get even more battery life if you're on a lower setting. 8 hours, absolutely crazy. And the nice thing too is if you're like me and you just take a lot of short rides to work and back or to the gym and back, you won't have to charge these for a couple of days because they'll last a good amount of time. So very happy with the battery life on these gloves. So the price point of these gloves comes in at $150, $160, which is relatively affordable, like I said, considering that real heated grip are going to cost $200 to $400 to get installed on your bike, and that's just one bike. Having the flexibility to be able to take these gloves and jump on any mini bike, any motorcycle, any dirt bike, any snowmobile, like I said, it's well worth the price because they're just so universal because you're not tied down to one machine. So one thing I'd be wondering if I was looking into buying heated gloves like this is, are they bulky and are they hard to ride in? And I gotta say, at first, coming from summer riding gloves that are super thin, you know, they got all the ventilation, there was an adjustment. It took a minute to get used to a little bit bigger gloves. But here's the thing, any winter gloves out there are going to be bulkier than your summer gloves, as to be expected, right? You gotta break the wind, you gotta have all the insulated layers, and if you get heated gloves, you have to have all the heater components in the gloves as well. Having all that packed into these gloves, honestly, is pretty incredible. These do not feel nearly as bulky as I expected them to. Like I said, a small adjustment to get used to them versus these summer gloves, but overall not a huge difference, and it didn't take me more than a couple of minutes to, you know, kind of feel around and get used to them. So yeah, overall, super comfortable gloves.
Now, at the end of the day, if you're trying to stay warm on a budget, I would suggest definitely go with the gloves because like I said, your hands are kind of the more important thing. You know, if your chest gets cold, if your legs get cold, it's not the end of the world. Maybe get some wool socks, something like that. But these gloves will keep your hands warm, which helps you smoothly operate your motorcycle even when it's cold. Not to mention, you can just bundle up if you need to. It's not like you need to have a special jacket, you need to have warm weather pants. You can just bundle up and be cheap. That's what I did for a couple years here until I bought all this stuff. So at the end of the day, your hands are kind of the most important thing. So if you had to pick one of 3, get these. If you can get all 3, do it because you're gonna be able to get more riding time. I typically will ride when it's 20 degrees out, when it's 30 degrees out, even colder sometimes, just as long as the roads are clear. Here in Michigan, it snows here and there. So unfortunately, there are some days I can't ride, but I can ride late into fall, some random days in the winter when it decides to be warm out and the roads are clear, and not to mention early spring when it's still kind of warming up, you can ride as well. So having all of this allows you to get so much more ride time out of each season, and I think it's highly worth the investment.